Okay, this lesson is on the distributive property. This is a lesson that we have done before, and I am just looking here at, eventually we're going to be reviewing some multi-step equations, and so I'm just looking at making sure that we have all the little components before we try to put together some really more complicated equations. Okay, so remember the distributive property is when we draw the arrows. And what it means is if you have a number outside of parentheses that are used as a grouping symbol, that number outside the parentheses is supposed to be multiplied by everything inside of the parentheses. Okay, and this property is called the distributive property. So, for example, on letter A, example number 1, the directions say to simplify each expression by distributing. So we're going to distribute the 4, okay, simply by taking 4 and multiplying it by the x. So we're going to write 4 times the x. We're going to bring down the plus sign that's in between the x and the 7. And then we're going to do 4 times 7. Okay? And then we're just going to clean that up a little bit. So 4 times x is 4x plus, and then 4 times 7 is 28. Just wanting to remind you again, like I did in the previous example, we are dealing with expressions. Okay, and remember, an example of an expression might be 4x plus 7. Okay, whereas what we're trying to work our way towards being able to solve would be something like this, which is an equation. Okay, so there's a difference. Okay, with equations, we're going to get down to x equaling some number. Okay, with our expressions, we're not. Now, you might be thinking, well, can we put the 4x and the 28 together? Okay, if you recall, this 4 isn't just a 4, it's a 4x. In order for us to be able to put 4x with the 28 would have to have an x. And as we can see, they do not have an x. Okay, so our final answer to this problem is 4x plus 28. Okay. All right, the next problem, letter B, says to distribute the 6. So we're going to take 6 times the p and bring down that subtraction sign. One of the things that most students make a mistake on this is they do not correctly distribute the 6 to the second number. A lot of times they just want to bring down the -5 and leave it at that. But remember, we have to take that 6 times everything inside the parentheses. So 6 times the p and 6 times the 5. So this would be 6 times 5. And then when we simplify, we get 6p minus 30. All right, the next one, we have -2 that we're distributing. This one's a little bit more challenging because we're not just distributing the 2 to the x and the -8, we're also multiplying it by a negative, okay? One little hint that I have for students on these problems is that whatever the sign is inside the parentheses, when you distribute the negative sign, that sign is going to switch, okay? For example, this x right here is currently positive. When I'm done distributing the -2 to it, it's going to be negative. This 8, because it says -8, and I know a subtracting 8 is the same as a -8, this is starting out negative, so it should change to positive. So let's go ahead and distribute. We're going to do -2 times x. We're going to bring down the subtraction sign in between the x and the -8, and then we're going to do -2 times 8. Okay, some students don't bring down the negative sign, they just say it's -2 times -8, and that works as well because we can see we're going to end up doing the 2-line rule. So we have -2x plus 16. One thing that I want to point out is, remember we talked about in the beginning the sign for the x and the sign for the 8 should change. So we talked about the fact that the x is starting out positive and should end up negative, okay, which you can see right here that it did. We also know that the 8 is starting out negative and it should end up positive, Okay, we ended up taking that 2 times 8, so you can see that that 16 did in fact become positive, so the signs did in fact change. All right, for number 5, okay, we are going to, so we're going to take 5 and distribute that to the negative 3x, and then we're going to take 5 and distribute that to the 7y. So we have 5 times a negative 3x, bring down that plus sign, and then 5 times the 7y. 5 times negative 3x, we're just going to do 5 times negative 3, which is 15x, plus, and then 5 times 7y would be just 5 times 7, which is 35, and then y. All right, the next one, we're going to distribute a fraction in this example. Okay, we're going to distribute 1/3. So we're going to do 1/3 times x, bring down the subtraction sign, and we will do 1/3 times 6. So our answer will be 1/3 x minus, now I'm going to rewrite this times 6 as 6 over 1 since I'm multiplying by a fraction. I might as well go ahead and do that, and then you can see the 6 and the 3, since one's in the numerator and one's in the denominator, we can go ahead and simplify those. Okay, and we get 2. So our final answer is 1/3 x minus 2. And for our final example, again, we're distributing another negative sign. Currently the y is positive, the 10 is negative. That should change in our answer. All right, so we have negative 3 times y, and then think about it, we have a negative 3 times a negative 10, so we have a negative 3 times a negative 10. Okay. So if I clean this up a little bit, I have negative 3y, and then negative 3 times negative 10 is a positive 30. So negative 3y plus 30 is our final answer. Please make sure that you follow the directions when you're filling out your Google form, and also make sure that you are writing on a separate sheet of paper. Make sure that you take a picture of your paper to upload to Google Classroom. Okay. Hope you guys have a great day.